Senator Tillis. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Ms. Hurd, I know this is a unique experience for you, but thank you for being here. I'm sorry about the challenges you went through. And Dr. Denner, did you not speak before a judiciary hearing in the past?
I did.
I thought so. I remember your testimony. I think you were sitting at the far left in that hearing, if I recall. I'm Thom Tillis, senator from North Carolina. I was Speaker of the House before I came up here to the Senate. And I remember when I decided to run for the Senate, I had been Speaker, and we'd passed some pro-life bills. They were termed at the time radical pro-life bills. In North Carolina, they said, now that you're running for Speaker or Senator against a Democrat pro-choice incumbent, how are you going to deal with your record? I said, you're asking the question as if I'm going to run from my record. I intend to run on my record. And Ms. Hurd and Ms. Denner both, I'm very sorry for the experiences that you went through, but this hearing isn't about coming up with a common sense solution or maybe striking balance that I heard in Professor Sneed's comments. This is about political points. So I'm sorry that you have to be a part of this, but if you'll indulge me, I won't go over my time. But the reality is, the reason I wasn't concerned with my radical position on pro-life is because I was consistent with the majority of North Carolinians. It was even better numbers probably back at the time. We're not talking about, we get into this argument, we shout over everyone because we talk about the extreme position as if I would have supported the extreme, what I argue was an extreme judgment in Alabama, but the fact of the matter is Mr. Sneed did a pretty good job of explaining how that whole process went into place. And then the Alabama legislature fixed that one. Having said that, I, for one, think that policies that the Alabama legislature proposed on abortion restrictions are a bit extreme. And ultimately, over time, I don't think that they will win the day in terms of public opinion. Maybe the same could be argued for some of Texas's policies, although they've addressed some of the concerns that may have made the experience that you went through go differently. But when people go out of this committee and they hear the narrative of Republicans' extreme policies, the vast majority of the Republicans' extreme policies are in alignment with the Western world. They would be out of alignment with countries like China and North Korea, but they're not extreme. It's not extreme to say late trimester abortions have to have some reasonable limits, including exceptions that would not have been an impediment to Dr. Denner's abortion. I think that there's a happy middle ground that most Americans will accept, but they don't get a chance to have that discussion because what we have here are policy-driven hearings that really drowned out those in the middle who think that there probably is a common sense middle ground. I think this is pretty close to it. Maybe we could have a debate about it. Let me tell you what's not mainstream policy. A vote that we had on the floor that every member who was in Congress, a Democrat member, voted for, and every member in this Congress has co-sponsored, a Democrat member. It's a pretty extreme policy. And this is, I told my staff, you better fact check this 3 ways to Wednesday because it is factually what was voted on the floor. And I had somebody call into my office saying, Senator Tillis, you have to support that vote on the floor because it's just codifying Roe v. Wade. He did not know who I was. But I had staff, I told my staff, if you get calls like this, tell them that the Democrats are voting on a policy that would use taxpayer dollars to compel a religious institution to perform an abortion on a minor, not necessarily with a doctor, a physician's assistants without the knowledge and consent of their parents. That is not hyperbole. That is not exaggeration. That is the text of the bill that my colleagues voted on, and then they come to a hearing like this and suggest that we have the radical position. This is rejected by a vast majority of the American people. So if we want to have a hearing educating people on radical, that is radical. That is a law that was voted on the floor and is now co-sponsored by my Democrat colleagues. So I look forward, as somebody who's worked on a lot of bipartisan bills, I look forward to having an honest discussion where Ms. Hurd's experience can be taken into account, Ms. Dennard's experience can be taken into account, and the extremes at either end, which are preventing any sort of certainty that I think every expectant mother deserves or any aspiring mother deserves. You are collateral damage for the political games that we play here in these committee hearings, and this is an example of one that has nothing to do with a reasonable bipartisan outcome. Thank you all for being here.